This is Greg Kelly. Donate now to Toys for Tots, which works year-round. Go to toysfortots.org. Toys for Tots supports children in need throughout the year with programs like the Toys for Tots Literacy Program. Established in 2008, it has provided over 63 million books to disadvantaged children. The Toys for Tots Literacy Program is committed to providing disadvantaged children with direct access to books and educational resources that enhance their ability to read and communicate effectively. Go to toysfortots.org.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Taxi.
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
I don't mean to laugh about death, but before we get to the other topics on hand, and I've got some that are really going to make you say, whoa, I love anything that makes me, I think it's interesting. I remember as a kid, the funeral home, my uncle Valentin, actually he's my aunt's husband, anyway, Valentin, I think it was Valentine was his name, but it was always referred to as Valentin, and when he was a good guy, I really liked him, and my parents were very, very good about this. They said, now listen, we're going to go to this funeral home, and I want you to see what he's about, what death is about. There's nothing to run from. And because it was handled so matter-of-factly, so scientifically, I was fascinated by it. Oh, so that's what death looks like. Huh. And my mother even said, you can touch his hand. Look, this is a death. Don't be afraid of it. And I said, that's great. I appreciate that. I thank you. And then she says, now listen, do me a favor. Cover me. I said, what? Cover you? What are you going to do? Just make sure nobody comes. So she took out a mass card. And she stuck it in his coat or whatever it was. I said, why? First of all, why is this verboten? Number one. What am I covering you for? And what's the big deal? I'm just doing it. So anyway, this is when I knew that I was different than most people because I see things in humor. Or I see humor in things, I should say. Or I see things in humor. That's even funnier. I heard her, it was a joke, which she didn't know it was a joke, but then again, she thought about it, and I was just a kid, but I laughed. And she said, why did you put the mass card in Valentin in his suit pocket? And she said, quote, for good luck. And I said, I'm not an expert on luck, but I think it doesn't get any more out of luck than this. So we were laughing about this. Speaking of death, another one too, which also I think incorporated the notion of not so much comedy, but just absurdism. And I said, why does so-and-so have glasses on? And they said, because so people will recognize him. I said, I think people are going to recognize him. There's a sign outside the door that says his name, and you see other people here, and you probably, by virtue of elimination, you probably say, that's probably the person. I said, well, why must he wear glasses in a casket? He said, well, because, he always wore glasses, and not when he went to sleep. Anyway, that's when I realized that people kind of lost when it came to death. And finally, my dad's friend, Tony, one time, again, I laugh because I think people are funny. And I think they're saying things that are of an absurdist point of view. And I said, what do you think about cremation, Tony? And he says, nah, it seems too final. And I laughed. And he said, what's the matter? I said, no, that's funny. I said, what do you mean? No, but sometimes people will say great puns and they don't get it. We had a friend who referred to everything in his word, every word, balls was the most important word in his life. You got to have them, you got to show them. He would say probably President Trump has big ones and make sure you have them. And, it's all the man, to every expression. What did you think of Charles de Gaulle? He had balls, that was his whole thing. So I referred to him to a woman And I said, oh, listen to this. This was perfect. As I went through this litany of how many times it refers to these, testicular references, she said, he was so egotistical. And I said, hey, that's good. She said, what do you mean? I said, no, the testicle. No, he is. No, you. And I thought, oh my God. I'm writing this down, and they don't even know they're funny, which is the story of my life. But just because you know you're funny doesn't mean nobody else. Put it this way: if you have the most accurate clock in the world and nobody else does, what difference does it make?
At Manhattan University, a graduate degree is not out of reach. You'll gain real-world skills, credentials employers value, and connections to New York City's top companies. Choose from their new Master of Science degrees in healthcare informatics, digital marketing and analytics, business analytics, or financial analytics, all built around hands-on learning and industry partnerships. Graduate ready to lead, not just work. Take the next step at manhattan.edu/graduate. Manhattan University. Lead the future.